It wasn't about technicalities. It wasn't about who wrote it. It wasn't about technicalities. It wasn't about who wrote the letter and how he characterized the letter. That's interesting. But what is deadly serious about it is the Attorney General of the United States of America was not telling the truth to the Congress of the United States. That's a crime. Yes, Nancy.
Hello, folks. It's Charles Butler, and this is the reality check with Charles Butler. We're going to have Scott Adams on with us today, and we're going to we're going to talk about the Bar Mueller fiasco yesterday. It was horrible. It was horrible the way these people treated um, Attorney General Barr. I just don't. Well, I do get it. They don't have anything to hold on to. Nancy Pelosi said that William Barr committed a crime. He lied. Nothing could be further from the truth. Let's play Nancy's 2 cents here, because you have to hear this to really believe that the Speaker of the House is saying these things. It's amazing. Okay, I don't know what that's all about.
It wasn't about technicalities. It wasn't about who wrote the letter and how he characterized the letter. That's interesting. But what is deadly serious about it is the Attorney General of the United States of America was not telling the truth to the Congress of the United States. That's a crime.
Oh wow.
Yes, Nancy.
The speaker the speaker of the House stands at a press conference and calls the Attorney General of the United States a liar. These people have no respect. They have no respect for this administration. They have no respect for the law. They have no respect. Absolutely none. It's unconscionable. I think Ted Cruz, we can go through all the grandstanding, and people are constantly interviewing Kamala Harris because she and the attorney general got into it supposedly. But again, it's that snippy black woman thing. I'm a testy black woman. I'll stand up and I'll get in your face. Somebody needs to punch her out. That's why when you talk about, and I'm just kidding about punching her out, of course, but when we talk about cultural differences, black women have a tendency to be confrontational, and confrontational to the point where people engage each other physically. And I can, just name you numerous situations where it must be a cultural thing because there's no other way to explain white women don't get up in your face like some white women. Let me rephrase that. Because poor PWT hillbilly women have that same I'm just as tough as you attitude. And I think it's part of the culture of violence, of rape, of high sexualization. And you're living with men who their only accomplishment is between their legs. That's where their power lies. So you get that kind of interaction from blacks, a number of blacks, and from a cultural perspective, and poor whites from a cultural perspective. It's really interesting when you compare social economic cultures, trends, uh, idiosyncrasies, how these things pan out regardless of race. Really is. It's really interesting. We're also going to have a guy named Gavin Clarkson on with us. He was a former Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy and Economic Development in the Department of Interior, and he's also going to run for U.S. Senate 2020. Amazing. So I think Ted Cruz, as I was saying earlier, summed up the hearing very well yesterday. And I'm not going to try to paraphrase what Ted said because I think it was so profound what he had to say. This is a guy who I could not support running for president. A lot of my friends did. I didn't. I wasn't behind him at all. I didn't like him. I met him here in Chicago, in Illinois several times. Didn't like the guy. He came in, he campaigned, he got money. And his thing was size you up, see if you could write a check. If you couldn't write a check, he'd move on to the next person. That's that was his play, and I get that because he didn't have any money of his own, unlike Donald Trump. So, uh, folks, we're out there broadcasting live on YouTube. You can go to Charles Butler 52. That's my channel, Charles Butler 52, and also my Facebook, which is Charles Butler Conservative. Check us out.
Well, Barr, thank you for your testimony. And let me start by just saying thank you. You've had an extraordinarily successful career. You didn't have to take this job. And you stepped forward and answered the call yet again, knowing full well that you would be subject to the kind of slanderous treatment, the Kavanaugh treatment that we have seen of senators impugning your integrity. And I, for one, am grateful that you answered that call and are leading the Department of Justice both with integrity and fidelity to law. That is what the nation rightly expects of our Attorney General, and I believe you are performing that very ably. I think this hearing today has been quite revealing.
Now, yeah, it's been revealing. It was revealing. They call this man all kinds of names. They call him a liar. They call him deceitful. When you and I were listening yesterday to the hearing during my hour on Red State, there was the senator from, and I don't even want to mention her name because she makes me so angry. She she called Barr a liar, despicable. You don't do that. You don't do that to people. You have some civility. She needs to go back to the barrio, whatever the hell they call the ghetto in Hawaii, because she's a ghetto person. She doesn't deserve to sit in the Senate. She's not dignified enough to sit in the Senate. She has no scruples. She has no pride. She has no bearing. She's like a ghetto person. And I mean that in the most derogatory manner, by the way. Just in case you didn't forget, you didn't get that. I really did. But Ted Cruz was absolutely right. You know, Barr did not have to uh, take the job as AG. Barr is a combat veteran, a combat hero who has actual medals for heroic acts in combat. And he comes back and has to sit here and listen to these people who've never done anything in their damn lives except be run for government and for government offices because they talk a lot and they say things, they take men on. I don't like Kamala Harris. I don't like her at all. I didn't like Michelle Obama. I don't like Nancy Pelosi. I certainly don't like Pocahontas and Dianne Feinstein. It goes without saying. But these are people who are dis- disrespectful, disingenuous. They lie on people. Now, you heard what Ted Cruz said about Mr. Barr, and he's very accurate. He said, hey, you release these documents, you release the 19 pages that everybody's poo-pooing about, coo-cooing about. It's public information now, plus the 448 pages of the Mueller report. Only 10% of it was redacted. 10%. And that's because of the sensitive nature in the document and by law. By law, certain information couldn't be released. Intelligence information, grand jury information, information on ongoing trials. That's not Barr's fault. That's the law. So as we sit here and we think about, because they're going to play Camilla Harris confronting Mr. Barr over and over and over and over again. And it's more like Betty confronting Fred Flintstone and winning. The woman wins, the wife wins. It's like that commercial with Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union. I'm sorry, she's not going to be a pro athlete doing anything, you know. But it's TV. It's let the girl win. The girls are here. Come on, please. Tell that to the girls in Connecticut who who are not only losing to the transgendered boys, but those transgendered boys are setting national records in track. Not state records in Connecticut, but national records in all 50 states. They're holding the national records for girls. That's how dumb, how stupid this whole transgender crap is. Sorry. Transgenderism is a mental issue, and I refuse to participate in the psychosis. Sorry. It's like you identify with the crazy person and you go along with the crazy person because you don't want to hurt their feelings. How crazy is that? I tell you, you can't make this stuff up, people. I often say that you cannot make this stuff up. So Cruz, I'm gonna fast forward here. He's like, wait a minute. You give these people everything they want, and they still tell you that you're hiding something. So let's play it.
You initially, when you received the Mueller report, released to Congress and the public a 4-page summary of the conclusions. Then on March 27th, Mr. Mueller asked you to release an additional 19 pages, the introduction and summary that he had drafted. And indeed, in the letter, what he says is, quote, "I am requesting that you provide these materials to Congress and authorize their public release at this time." And the reason he says it is that to fully capture the context, nature, and substance of the office's work and conclusion. So you did not release those 19 pages at that time. Instead, a couple of weeks later, you released 448 pages, the entire report, which includes those 19 pages. Do I have that timeline correct?
That's right.
So their entire argument is, General Barr, you suppressed the 19 pages that are entirely public, that we have, that we can read, that they know every word of it. And their complaint is it was delayed a few weeks. And that was because of your decision not to release the report piecemeal, but rather to release those 19 pages along with the entire 448 pages produced by the special counsel.
Yes.
If that is their argument, I have to say that is an exceptionally weak argument. Because
Barr starts laughing. Yeah, because it is weak. Their argument is weak. And they know it's weak. And we know it's weak. We're talking about the Mueller report. We're talking about Attorney General Barr sitting before the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee and being grilled and being disrespected and being called a liar. I mean, these people are totally out of control. They have no honor. They have no decorum. There are rules in the Senate. The Senate is a very civil body, unlike the House, which is a very raucous, uh, energetic, kind of, I wouldn't say juvenile, but they mix it up a little more, and they're more confrontational in the House. The Senate is more gentlemanly, and I mean that across the board for women and men. It's just more gentlemanly. And you look at these folks and you go, wait a minute. You are attacking this man, and you don't have good reason to attack him. What has he done to deserve this? And that's the question you have to ask yourself. What did I do in order to have these people treat me this way? And Barr did nothing. He did exactly what he's supposed to do. He had a 4-page summary, and this is the letter that was leaked yesterday. The letter that was leaked yesterday talked about how the media, the liberal media, anyway, wants to say that that Mueller wrote this letter to Barr telling him that they thought that he was misrepresenting their report. No, that's not what the letter said. And so the media keeps saying that, though, right? The mainstream media. But the reality is the letter from Mueller said he was upset with the way the the media was portraying the report. That's what he said in the 4 pages. He was upset with the media. He wasn't upset with Barr. He was upset with the media. Amazing, isn't it? How they switch things around. Again, it's an old Goebbels move. You tell the same lie loud and long enough, and people believe it. Barack did it. Obama did it his whole administration. Lie after lie after lie after lie, and people believe the lies. Oh, we're going to make America great again. Oh, we're going to fundamentally transform America. Sure. Sure. I'm not even going to play Camilla Harris. I had downloaded, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. I had 7 Camilla Harris clips, and one where she was asking Mr. Barr, did he do anything? Did anyone from the Trump team or administration ask him to do anything illegal? And so he said that he thought about it. He's like, okay. And others. Did Mr. Trump or others? And he's thinking, boom, 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 boom. Did anyone ask me to do anything illegal or suggest that I do anything illegal? Boom, boom. Oh, you're thinking about it. You must have done something illegal. That's Kamala Harris. Then she goes on to talk about the March 24th letter and how General Barr had ignored substantive, substantive evidence of wrongdoing by the Trump administration. I mean, where did they get these people? where, where do they get these people? Who knows? And she calls Barr biased. Like I said, I'm not going to play Kamala Harris. I'm just not feeling her right now. Not feeling her at all. But it was looking for my boy Scott to come on, and I guess he forgot. He forgot, or he thought it was 2 o'clock his time, so it's our time. So let's see here. Um, there's a guy out there named Chris Hedges, and he's talking about the demise of America, the fall of America, and he calls it the farewell tour. This is a guy who I know must not be an American, must be a Canadian. I think he's part Canadian or something like that. But one of the things I want to talk about is something I talk about all the time, and people call me a xenophobe. And I'm not a xenophobe. I'm just dealing with reality. We hire all of these foreign people, these Asian people, and guess what? They turn out to spy on America. This is the second one this year where a former CIA agent and former U.S. Army veteran pleads guilty to conspiring to spy for China, where they've given him hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Can you imagine what kind of life he would live in China? This is a guy who was a 13-year veteran of CIA, and he'd long been suspected of espionage. So why didn't they bust him? But what they did was the last 2 years of the Obama administration, we basically went black. We didn't know what was going on in China because all our assets, intelligence assets, were being killed off. Our human assets were being killed off. We couldn't figure out why. Well, this guy was giving them all the information. I'm sure this guy and the driver of uh, Dianne Feinstein's car, who was a Chinese spy, we still don't know what happened to this guy. He drove her around for 20 years, spying on her with her dumb self. Oh, I'm employing an Asian. I'm just so diverse. Please, stupid, stupid, stupid person. Okay, so the gentleman's name is Jerry Chung Shin Lee, and he was arrested and charged in 2018 for conspiring to communicate, deliver, and transmit national defense information to the People's Republic of China. I want to say, should add to that, the Communist People's Republic of China. That's the official title. The attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, a guy named Zachary Terwilliger, said Lee sold out his country, conspired to become a spy for a foreign government, and then repeatedly lied to investigators about his conduct. The prosecution should serve as a warning to others who would compromise our nation's secret and betray our nation's trust. Yeah, he should go to jail, no question. Should do some time, some hard time. Hey, but look, we're gonna take a little break, I think, and we'll be right back doing what we do. And so bear with us. We're gonna get ready to bring on Gavin.
Hey, this is Leonora Cravota from Red State Talk Radio for My Pillow. I used to have trouble sleeping. My Pillow changed all that. I now fall asleep within moments of my head touching my pillow. That's how comfortable My Pillow is with its patented interlocking fill. My Pillow stays cool and does not go flat. Plus, it's machine washable and dryable. My Pillow has a 10-year warranty and a 60-day comfort guarantee. My Pillow is also the official pillow of the National Sleep Foundation, and it's made right here in the USA. My Pillow is now offering Red State Talk Radio listeners a 4-pack special with 2 premium standard or queen pillows and 2 go anywhere pillows. That's 4 pillows for the price of 1. To take advantage of this special offer, call 1-800-961-9194 and ask for promo code Red State. That's 1-800-961-9194, promo code Red State. Put sleepless nights behind you with My Pillow, the most comfortable pillow you will ever own.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Kim Moline, co-owner of the Wingstop restaurants in Lansing and South Holland.
Hey, Tom, I've got to be honest. Although I was unhappy with our old payroll company, I was pretty apprehensive about transitioning to a new one. When it comes to payroll, delays and lost data are really unacceptable. But I'm happy to say your staff really made it easy for us, and the transition couldn't have been smoother. And now, as we consider taking advantage of some of the other services you offer, well, let's just say that next time we won't be so chicken.
Thanks, Kim. Just call me at 630-242-1507. That's 630-242-1507. Or check us out at the web at precisionpayroll.com. That's
Okay, we're coming back to you on the crossroads. We gotta, but when we look at this stuff. We keep hiring people. They keep hiring people into the CIA, NSA, and these people are selling us out. They hire them into the defense industries, knowing that sooner or later they're selling off secrets. The Chinese they're building stealth fighters. They never had that technology. That's American technology. That's technology that taxpayers have paid for. And they're giving it to the Chinese, so we'll have a formidable enemy, so we can keep spending billions and billions of dollars in the military-industrial complex. Who leaked this information to the Chinese so that they could build fighters to compete with ours? Now, I can tell you that Bill Clinton certainly gave the missile guidance technology in the Cray computer. That's a fact. That's not supposition. That's not hating Democrats. It's just exactly what it is. That's what it is. So court documents show that Lee began residing in Hong Kong after he left the CIA in 2007 and was approached by 2 Chinese intelligence officers. Wow. And then April of 2010, the Chinese agents prepared him for a gift of $100,000 cash, and they offered to take care of him for life in exchange for his cooperation. Great deal, huh? Sold out his country. I hope he gets life in prison. They say the majority of the tasking asked Lee to reveal sensitive information about the CIA, including national defense information. Oh, wow. So that month, Lee created a document containing U.S. national defense information that he transferred to a thumb drive. Wow. And then the court ordered the FBI to search a hotel room in Honolulu, registered to Lee, and produced the thumb drive and the day planner. They contained handwritten notes that included intelligence provided by the CIA assets, their true names of assets, etc. He got people killed. Got people killed with his deception. So after his arrest, they say they doubted he'd be found guilty for the collapse of the U.S. asset network in China following the deaths of several CIA sources there. Amazing. By knowingly aiding and abetting a foreign government, though, Mr. Lee put our country's national security at serious risk, unfortunately. It's amazing how these people, do this, get away with it, and then think that they can walk. They come to this country. We open our doors, let them into this country. This guy went back to Hong Kong. If you're an American, why would you go back to Hong Kong? Hey, man, just saying, folks. Hey, but look, he's going to be sentenced, I think, in August. So we'll keep an eye on that. Right now, we have a guest on the line, Mr. Gavin Clarkston. And, I introduced him earlier. He's a former Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy and Economic Development in the Department of the Interior and a former associate professor in the College of Business at New Mexico State University and the 2018 Republican nominee for Secretary of State in New Mexico. So he's a Harvard Law School grad and the first tribal member to ever earn a doctorate from the Harvard Business School. That's great. And at Harvard, he was president of the Native American Law Students Association. It's great. Managing editor of the Harvard Journal of Law and Technology and the only doctoral graduate in history of the Harvard Business School who is also placed in a livestock show. That's quite an accomplishment. I like that. I like that. Hey, Gavin, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm doing fine, but you're embarrassing me with listening to all those things. I'm just a simple country boy with a couple fancy Eastern degrees. That's all.
Yeah, that's what I say too. Hey, but listen, man. We were talking. You were talking about the border patrol and illegal immigrants in New Mexico. You guys are getting quite a rush down there on the border all of a sudden.
Oh, it's we're being totally overrun. New Mexico's got 179 miles of border with Mexico. Only 34 miles of that is covered by primary barrier, which are the 18 to 33 foot fences. The rest are vehicle barrier, another 81 miles, and then beyond that, it's either barbed wire, or in some places, it's literally absolutely nothing. There's a spot where Texas, New Mexico, and Old Mexico all come together called Monument One. And at that point, there's no wall, there's no fence, there's not even a pile of rocks. And if you go there at the right point of the day, every day there'll be a group of Brazilians flying in from Brazil to Ciudad Juarez Airport, and they will take an Uber over to Monument One, and they'll walk across with a child in one hand and their carry-on luggage in the other. They'll step across the sidewalk, because literally it's just a sidewalk, and then they say asilo, which is asylum in either Spanish or Portuguese, and poof, they have gained the system. They have gained entry to the United States, and our system is so broken that basically they get everything they want. They because their court date is going to be about 4 years from now. They get a work permit in 6 months. So they have literally gamed the entire system, and it happens thousands of times a day. Literally on Tuesday, just in my backyard, there were approximately 470 illegal aliens who claimed asylum. And then a few miles west of me was another 250. So it was the largest number of migrants in one group ever in the whole New Mexico sector. That's actually called the El Paso sector because it includes El Paso, Texas. And we're just being overrun. And I'm not against immigration at all. My wife is a legal immigrant. She crossed into the United States 25 years ago. She learned English after she got a worker's permit. She learned English by listening to country music while cleaning other people's houses. She took her 14 years to become a citizen. So she's a proud American, and she doesn't like all these people who are cheating the system and gaming the system and cutting in line ahead of the people who are doing it the right way. And so we absolutely are totally overwhelmed. Our homeless shelters are being inundated. And in fact, it's to the point where they're unable to provide the level of service that our homeless veterans have come to depend on because they're swamped with illegal aliens who are fraudulently claiming asylum.
Well, I think that sooner or later, the American people are going to have to take the law into their own hands and let these people know that they're not welcome here. And I really hate to say
we don't want to have armed vigilantes.
Listen,
I am in full support of private citizens on private land or land where they have the right to occupy, alerting Border Patrol and alerting law enforcement.
The bottom line is these people are playing games with American lives. The politicians don't care because they're depending on these poor, ignorant, illiterate people coming here and voting Democrat for the next 60 years. That's what they're counting on. They're replacing blacks that are
Oh,
leaving.
They're
leaving.
Nancy Pelosi has said as much. That's her whole point, is she wants to have all of these illegal aliens coming in and voting.
And the thing is, if we as Americans don't stand up, and Latino Americans need to stand up, and African Americans, Black Americans, I don't call them African Americans, Black Americans need to stand up and say, stop bringing all these people here from Africa. Stop bringing these Somalis here, these Nigerians here. They're not Black. It's all of this. I've seen this schism and this hatred of white people in this country. And I had made a comment to a friend of mine who has a show, a guy named Roland Martin. I don't know if you know Roland or know who he is, but Roland used to be on TV One. And I saw a show that he did last week, and he was so proudly proclaiming that white people would not be the majority group by 2040. And I said, do you have any idea how racist these Latinos and these East Indian people are? They call us descendants of slaves, you idiot. I said, they have no respect for Black Americans, none at all. And you know it, and I know it. And usually Roland will get back to me. Roland will get back to me no later than a day. He will respond to my text message. He still hasn't responded. That's been over a week ago. I just castigated him about how racist.
Go ahead.
About how.
So what I was saying is what I was going to say is the influx of migrants is absolutely damaging the African American community, or the Black community, and the Latino community, because we have, for example, and particularly the Native American community, on our reservations in New Mexico, unemployment is at 56%. And so why are we importing more poor people from other countries when we can't we're not doing a good enough job of creating opportunities for our own folks? Well, and I'm sure that's the same issue. That's the same issue where you're living. And so we have economic needs that we need to take care of. We need to create entrepreneurship opportunities. We need to create economic opportunities. We don't need to be spending billions of dollars on importing poor people who are gaming the system and lying the moment they set foot on the border.
Well, and not only that, I mean, these are people who are so illiterate and so ignorant, they don't even speak Spanish. They don't read or write Spanish or Spanglish or whatever you want to call it. And so,
well, and not all of them are from Central America, and that's what most people. That's part of the misnomer is, and I think you pointed it out correctly. In the El Paso sector, they have apprehended illegal aliens committing asylum fraud from more than 50 different countries. We have Somalis that are coming across in El Paso. They apprehended some Al-Shabaab terrorists, and Hezbollah and ISIS have training camps just on the other side in Mexico, because they have created an unholy alliance with the drug cartels.
Well, you know what? I hope they head right to Washington, D.C. And that's the only time. Hold on one second. Until these people go to Washington, D.C. and kill some of those congressmen and senators up there, and damage change in this immigration issue. I don't care if it's Democrat or Republican. George Bush embraced illegal immigration. Clinton certainly, didn't deal with the immigration. I remember George Herbert Walker Bush talking about his little brown grandchildren. Well, he didn't have any Black grandchildren. I'm sure he would have had a heart attack if he had some Black grandchildren, but he had some brown grandchildren with a permanent tan. Go ahead.
It's interesting you mentioned that. My triple great grandfather on my mother's side was sold as a slave in 1855. So in our family, the joke is that I have more slave blood than Obama does, because all of his slave blood came from his white mother. But you're absolutely right. There is definitely the Democrats, the open border Democrats, have completely taken the vote in the Black community for granted, and they're not acting in their economic best interests. And so I think that's why we're going to see a major change in 2020. That's part of the reason I'm running for the United States Senate, is to be one of those people going to Washington and fixing this broken immigration system and making sure that our immigration system works for Americans,
Well, wait
and
a minute.
that we have an America First policy that prioritizes the economic interests and the job needs of American citizens, those who came here legally.
But Gavin, you have to understand, when Trump said, and I'm sure you do, because Trump endorsed you to run for Senate in 2020. When Trump said "Make America Great Again," I never for one second thought that he was talking about Jim Crow, or thought that he was talking about segregation. You had all of these ignorant black people, Al Sharpton, Maxine Waters, and others, just to mention a few, Jesse Jackson, talking about going back to, oh, and what did Biden say? They're trying to put y'all all back on the plantation. If I see Joe Biden, let me tell you, send me some bail money, okay? Because I'm going to pop him right in the lip. Okay, I'm gonna send y'all back to.
Well, I am an attorney, but I'm not licensed in Chicago, so I'll have to refer you a buddy of mine.
No. It will be. I don't know where it would be wherever I see Joe, but I mean just the thought of this white man being so condescending and so comfortable that he could mimic in a black voice that they're trying to put y'all back on the plantation. The only plantation that black people have ever been put on are the plantations that Democrats put them on in urban cities, put them on in the South. It's all been about Democrats. The only economic breaks they've ever gotten, or civil or social breaks they've ever gotten, have all come from Republicans and Republican administrations. And they're so ignorant. They don't. But let me say this before we go too far. See, I have been saying for the last 15 years that blacks are leaving the Democratic Party, and the Democrats don't want to acknowledge it, nor do the Republicans want to embrace it. Because the Republicans we have in the party today are former Democrats who are angry because they don't have anybody to clean their homes. And these women used to sit at home on their behind and let the black woman come in and clean and cook and all that. She's out working now, and she's upset. Okay. And I look at this, and I listen to the Me Too movement. I listen to people like Nancy Pelosi, Camilla Harris, Pocahontas, Barbara Boxer, some of these folks. I tell you, the only one that kind of halfway makes some sense, but she's such a hypocrite, she won't get anywhere, and that's Gillibrand. She used to make sense. Now she's toast because she's backtracked on everything that she said that was sensible. And then you have that other woman coming up. What's her name? It starts with a K. I want to say Klobacher or something like that. I can't come up with it, but she's.
You got Amy. You got Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota, and then you also have Tulsi Gabbard from Hawaii. Those are the other two women in the race that I'm aware of.
Yeah, but
although I do have to correct you on one thing.
What's that?
And I've corrected the president on this. The proper term is not Pocahontas, because Pocahontas was a real person. The proper term is Pocahontas, because Elizabeth Warren was totally fake. As president of the Native American Law Students Association, I invited her to come support Native students 3 times in a row personally, and she never showed up once.
That's before you found out.
So Pocahontas is the right term.
Pocahontas, I like that. But I always say
Pocahontas.
When my daughter was learning about Pocahontas, I said they're traitors and they're traitors. And she said, they were touting the virtues of Pocahontas. I said, well, Pocahontas led to the destruction of her race by leading Lewis and Clark through to the northwestern coast.
That would actually be Sacagawea.
I'm sorry, Sacagawea.
Yeah, because Pocahontas was a Powhatan Indian in Virginia.
Yeah, she went back to England and died of chickenpox or something, smallpox or something. But whether she went back voluntarily or not, generally the belief is that she was forcibly removed to England. But anyway, again, the point is Elizabeth Warren is actually, she's no friend to Indian country. She single-handedly created the most hostile anti-tribal federal agency since we stopped shooting Indians when Indian Affairs was in the War Department.
But I don't think she's credibly got a chance to. I don't see her being in the final mix of the Democrats. I don't actually think it really matters who the final one is, because I think the president's going to crush it. I think he's going to overperform what he did in 2016. His team has said that they fully expect to. He did not win New Mexico, but he's fully expecting to win New Mexico in 2020, and that bodes well for me as the Republican Senate candidate, because and part of it is. And I think you understand this, that we as conservatives, as constitutional conservatives, we don't have to change our message to reach out to blacks and Hispanics. We just need to point out how we share our value. We share these same values of family and opportunity and so on. And whereas the left is just doing nothing but pandering. What we're saying is, look, you work your butt off, you get, and we level the playing field so that everybody's got the same opportunity. And then it's up to you to put in the effort to succeed.
Gavin,
and I think that's a message that,
Gavin,
I don't know what your grandma told you, but that's certainly what my grandma told me.
Gavin, the issue here is, you always have, I've been a Republican since 1972. And I can tell you that you always have some racist moron who makes a racist comment, and they bill it out and they play it out, and it turns black people off. It turns Hispanics off. I mean, I can just come up with numerous gaffes that these racist white boys have said over the years about black people. These are conservatives. These are Republicans. I remember this guy named Wilbur Butts, who was the Secretary of Commerce. He said all black people want is a comfortable pair of shoes and a warm toilet seat. He worked for Ronald Reagan. I mean, they ended up kicking him out of the administration. But I mean, you come down the line and see George W. Bush was a good dude. I mean, he was a great guy. Had a lot of people working for him of color, black folks, brown folks, and he understood the real issues. The guy he had working from Karl Rove is an ardent racist. Always has been, always will be. I've known Karl for 30 some odd years, and don't have any use for Karl Rove. The guy is not a good person. So, but when if we're just talking about issues like with the president has transcended race on a number of different levels, even though people keep trying to make his issue about race. Like I have people on my Facebook page. I have this black minister. He got on my Facebook page yesterday calling Trump a criminal and a racist. And I said, tell me what crime he committed, and give me an example of his racism. And so, of course, everyone wanted to talk about Charlottesville. And when I point out that Charlottesville, there were good white people who were marching for the keeping the monuments. They weren't Ku Klux Klansmen. They weren't white nationalists. They were just people who were marching to keep their Southern heritage. Did I agree with that? No, because I know that the Southern heritage was put in place in the first place to intimidate black folks. I lived down south. I experienced that nonsense, and I just never understood how, if you were an American, you could ever think it was honorable to try to destroy the Union, which the Confederates tried to do. And Robert E. Lee is very clear about where he stood on monuments and from the South, and I mean, he knew he was a traitor. I mean, he had to have his citizenship restored. All those people did. They had to repledge their citizenship. But anyway, the bottom line is, what Trump said was not, and he did denounce the white nationalists, but they just overlooked that. They always overlook the facts, and they always conflate the issues.
Oh, well, if it wasn't for double standards, the radical left would have no standards at all. If you look at the nonsense that Ilhan Omar keeps spouting, or Rashida Tlaib, or any of those, or AOC on the left, I mean, most of what they are saying is arguably racist. It's certainly anti-Semitic in many cases, and yet they get a total pass. And the president has a Jewish daughter and daughter-in-law and Jewish grandchildren, and yet somehow they're blaming him for the anti-Semitism when that the anti-Semitism has been rampant on the left for years. And I get it all the time because people say, well, you're tough on the border, or you're racist, and I respond in Spanish that la mitad de mis compañeros y mi campaña son hijos y nietos de migrantes legales, and they look at me and say, where'd that come from? And if that's not good enough, I whip out my tribal ID card. I confuse the heck out of these people who are the race baiters because I don't fit their mold, just in the same way you don't fit their mold. I am a conservative tribal member. My father started out as an orphan Indian kid in Chickasha, Oklahoma during the Dust Bowl days of the Depression. And he was so broke, and he would tell you he was broke and not poor. Because poor is a state of mind, whereas broke is a temporary insufficiency of cash flow. But he was so broke that he was digging through other Indians' garbage cans for food. And in 1943, he decided two things. He was sick and tired of poverty. He was mad at the Japanese for bombing Pearl Harbor. He joined the Navy and never looked back. And by 1948, my father became the first American Indian to fly a jet. And by 1962, he was the senior nuclear targeting strategist for all of NATO. So I am proof positive that Indian poverty is not a life sentence. And my father proudly said he never took a dime of public assistance.
That's great. He's, and there's nothing wrong with public assistance as long as it's assistance. But I tell you, I look back at, at our fathers, and my father's the same way. But I look at the racism that he had to endure, and my anger is not about me and the racism that I face each and every day. It's about the racism that I saw my father face as a man, as a boy growing up, and policemen pulling us over and showing my father disrespect, and then finally getting to the point where, oh, this is a family guy. Okay, I got it. But I'm telling you, man, uh, there's that duality of citizenship that I have, being a vet also.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah, and in my case, I pass for white, so I don't, I most of my friends, most of the people I work with, I mean, I live in a predominantly Hispanic community, and so it's interesting. I mean, I see it. It doesn't directly get directed at me because I do pass for white, but I mean, there are people out there, that still unfortunately, are guided by skin color, but a lot of those people that are guided by skin color are radical leftists and race baiters, and they are as racist, if not more so, than the people they condemn.
well, that's true, and that's why I came up during the '60s. That was my I graduated from high school in '70, and I was involved in a number of sit-ins and walkouts and protests about having black teachers and black principals and black studies. And here we are today. Let's just say 20, what was it, 1970. Here we are today, 50 years later, and we still don't have Dory Miller in the history books when we talk about Pearl Harbor. We still don't have Crispus Attucks as being the first colonist, colonialist that was killed in the name of freedom for the American Revolution, which happened to be a black man. We still don't have.
Mm-hmm.
We still don't have. I was looking at a it's running on Netflix. It's this thing about the girl with Thanos. The Thanos. Come on. The lady who was going to take the one.
The Avengers.
No. She's going to take the one. No, she's going to take the one drop of blood and do blood tests with one. It's called Thanos.
Oh,
yeah, not Thandros
okay.
or something like that. But anyway, she's getting ready to go to trial for fraud, investment fraud. But anyway, when they open up this Netflix documentary on this lady, they're playing this and they're talking about great inventions, and they bring up Thomas Edison. And Thomas Edison, supposedly his greatest invention was the filament for the electric light bulb. Well, guess what? Guess what, Gavin? The filament for the electric light bulb was created by a black man. His name was Lewis Latimer. And so people say, well, that's not true. And I go, yeah, it is true. He holds the patent. We can look it up on the internet. And I said, and besides that, Lewis Latimer has a building named for him at MIT's campus because of the many patents he held for what's his name, Edison. And people Theranos. That's what it's called. Theranos. 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 I had seen the Avengers too. Thanos,
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, but
Thanos is the bad guy for the Avengers.
Yeah, but she was the CEO for Theranos, and her name was Elizabeth Holmes. And they start out this called the inventor out of the blood in Silicon Valley. And that's one of the inventions that they hold because there were other incandescent light bulbs out there when Edison had his out there. His became commercially viable because of the tungsten filament, and it provided a longer lasting bulb. So anyway, but here we are after all this time, and you have historians who have purposely left that information out of history books, out of our lexicon, out of our history. When I remember looking at a history book and seeing a black man in the boat with George Washington. And I asked my teacher, now you have to understand, this is back in the 60s. I asked my teacher, who was this black man? And she said, no, that's not a black, that's not a colored man. That's an African. Now in those days, we were Negro, colored, and sometimes referred to as black, but that was derogatory. So we were basically colored and Negro. Nobody wanted to be black until like the late 60s when James Brown said, I'm black and I'm proud. But and James Brown was a Republican, by the way.
No doubt.
Well, he
hardest working man in show business.
Yeah, he was a Republican. As he supported Dick Nixon in '72, as did Sammy Davis Jr., as did Jim Brown, the football player, Bill Russell, the basketball player. But people don't talk about that. Just like all of these ball players are supporting Trump, like you got Shaq and that whole crew is a whole crew to Barkley. All these guys support Trump, and that just gets blown over. Well, we're not going to,
because it doesn't fit their narrative.
It doesn't fit the narrative, man. It doesn't fit the narrative. But we're going to change that, and I think Trump's going to win in a landslide come 2020. I think he's going to win in a landslide.
Well, and his team says they're going to win New Mexico, and that's and I am that's as a Republican candidate in New Mexico. That's my goal is to help support that, because I think the unfortunately New Mexico has not been able to see the economic prosperity that much of the rest of the nation has, because we're under the thumb of partisan leftist Democrats. So if your listeners have a chance, have them go to GavinClarkson.com. And I'd love to be able to get their support in making sure that we can flip this open seat over to the Republicans in 2020, and have a senator that is working for the betterment of all Americans.
Now you have a Democratic governor right now, right?
Yes, we do. And unfortunately, the 2018 was not a good year for us. But she has driven her party into the ditch on the far left side of the road.
Okay.
New Mexico is the late-term abortion capital of the Western Hemisphere.
Okay.
And they were actually trying to remove conscience protections for doctors. They said if a doctor refused to perform an abortion because of religious reasons, they'd yank his or her medical license.
Wow. That's deep.
And it's a big mess, and there's lots of Democrats that just don't recognize where their party is going. The socialists and the radical leftists have hijacked that party, and it's gone off the rails, certainly in New Mexico. And I think there's a bunch of Hispanic, devout Christian Hispanic families that maybe historically voted Democrat just because. It's probably a similar phenomenon in the black community where people voted Democrat because their parents or grandparents did. But that Democratic Party doesn't exist anymore.
No,
it is now the party of late-term abortion and infanticide. It is the party of gun confiscation. It is the party of Medicare for all, which basically means crappy health care for
socialism.
All. I mean, as somebody, I have familiarity with government-run health care. Between the VA and the Indian Health Service, I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
We have to sign off Red State. Hey, folks, you can catch us. We're going to sign off Red State with Gavin and Gavin Clarkson. Go to GavinClarkson.net. Check him out. Donate to his campaign.
GavinClarkson.com.
We'll be back tomorrow. GavinClarkson.com. We'll be back tomorrow. Hey, Gav, we're switching over to my online stuff. And we'll stay on. So
okay.
So I want you to go ahead and finish your thought. Go ahead. You go.
Well, again, the the Democrat Party, as I said, has become the party of late-term abortion and infanticide. And in New Mexico, the law is that they allow for abortion up until the day of birth, and if the baby survives the abortion, they toss it in the sink and watch it die.
Wow.
And even 70% of pro-choice Democrats have a problem with abortion after the 5th month.
Mm-hmm.
So the Democrat Party isn't even listening to their own constituents. Between that and the rural folks that we have coyotes and wolves in New Mexico, and people have guns for a reason, and yet the Democrats want to take them, or it doesn't do any good when you're out in the bush and there's a wolf threatening your cattle or threatening your kids you took with you.
Call
You
911.
can't go back to the sheriff's office to pick your gun back up to shoot the wolf.
Well, call 911. That's what these people would say. But look, Gavin, you got to come back.
Yeah, that's assuming you get cell coverage.
Hey, man, it's been great having you aboard. It's been just tremendous having you out here. Appreciate it. You got to come back and spend some time with us again.
Hey, no worries.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Gav. Gavin Clarkson.
Thank you, sir.
GavinClarkson.com. Go check him out. Okay. Folks, we're going to end the show today, and it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for tuning in. And Lord Latimer. I don't know who that is. I don't know who that lady is, Latimer. But anyway, we will be back tomorrow. Same time, same place, broadcasting here on Red State Talk Radio.com and Facebook, Charles Butler Conservative, and YouTube, Charles Butler 52. See you tomorrow, folks. Have a good one, okay? Don't do anything I wouldn't do.